I never expected that a torn rotator cuff would change my life. But here we are. I'm getting ahead of myself, though. Let me start at the beginning, back when I thought the worst part of my week was going to be explaining to my boss why I couldn't lift anything heavier than a coffee mug. It was a Tuesday when I hurt myself, such a mundane day for something that would reshape everything. I was helping my neighbor Mrs. Chen move her old dresser down from her attic, because apparently I'm the kind of idiot who says yes to things without thinking them through. The dresser was heavier than it looked, the attic stairs were steeper than I remembered, and my foot found the one loose board at exactly the wrong moment. I felt something pop in my shoulder, heard myself make this embarrassing yelping sound, and suddenly I was sitting on Mrs. Chen's hallway floor, trying not to cry while she fussed over me in Mandarin and broken English. The emergency room doctor was professionally sympathetic. In that way doctors are when they see something minor but painful. Torn rotator cuff, probably need physical therapy, definitely need rest. Here's a prescription for the pain and some anti-inflammatories. Oh, and she recommended this sports liniment that her marathon runner husband swore by. She wrote the name down on a little piece of paper like it was a secret recipe. Tiger Balm Ultra, she wrote, and then added, "Get someone to help you apply it. You won't be able to reach." That last part, the needing help part, that's what stuck with me as I drove home one-handed, my left arm strapped against my chest in a sling. I lived alone. My parents were 3 states away. My closest friends were college buddies I texted memes to, but hadn't actually seen in person in months. I realized with a sinking feeling, completely on my own with this. I managed okay for the first day. The pain meds helped, and I could mostly function if I didn't try to do anything ambitious like put on a shirt with buttons or open a jar. But that night, lying in bed, my shoulder was screaming at me. The anti-inflammatories weren't touching it. I remembered the liniment recommendation and found the crumpled paper on my kitchen counter. 24-hour pharmacy, I thought. I could do this. The pharmacist looked at me with pity when I walked in at 11 p.m., clearly in pain, wearing a sling and sweatpants. She helped me find the liniment and threw in some disposable gloves without my asking. "It's strong stuff," she warned. "Burns a little at first, then it works magic. You need help applying it?" I assured her I'd figure it out. Pride, you know? Stupid male pride that makes us pretend we don't need help even when we obviously do. Back home, I stood in my bathroom staring at the little jar like it was a Rubik's Cube. How exactly was I supposed to apply this to my own shoulder blade? I tried reaching back with my good arm, managed to smear some on approximately the wrong spot, and ended up with liniment on my elbow and nothing where it actually hurt. The smell was overwhelming, medicinal and sharp, like someone had weaponized mint. My eyes watered. I gave up, washed my hands, and went to bed frustrated and aching. Wednesday morning, I dragged myself to work, shoulder throbbing, sleep-deprived, probably smelling like a medicine cabinet. I worked in tech support for a mid-sized software company, the kind of job where you spend 8 hours explaining to people how to restart their computers while pretending it's fulfilling work. My cubicle was in the back corner, which I usually appreciated for the privacy, but that day it just felt isolating. "Dude, you look terrible." That was Marcus from accounting, leaning over my cubicle wall with his usual lack of filter. Marcus was good people, even if he had the tact of a sledgehammer. I explained about the shoulder, the liniment, my failed attempt at self-application. He laughed, not unkindly. "Why didn't you just ask someone to help? I would have helped." Would he have? Maybe. Probably. But the thought of asking Marcus to rub medicine on my bare back felt weird in a way I couldn't articulate. We were work friends, beer after work sometimes friends, but not that kind of friends. Or maybe I just wasn't comfortable being that vulnerable with him. I thanked him anyway and said I'd figure it out. Lunchtime, I was in the break room microwaving something sad and frozen when he walked in, and by he, I mean Daniel Park, who worked 2 floors up in web development and who I'd been nursing a pathetic crush on for approximately 8 months. Daniel with his perfect black hair that always looked artfully messy, his designer glasses that probably cost more than my rent, his slim-fit button-downs that he somehow made look effortless. Daniel, who who I'd never actually spoken to beyond awkward elevator small talk and one memorable incident where we both reached for the last everything bagel in the cafeteria and I'd insisted he take it, because I'm apparently a Victorian maiden when I'm attracted to someone. He was getting coffee, and I was trying very hard not to stare at the way his sleeves were rolled up to his elbows, and then he turned and saw me struggling to open my sad lunch container one-handed. "Here, let me." He was across the break room in 3 steps, taking the container from me before I could protest, popping it open with ease. His fingers brushed mine during the handoff. I probably blushed. I definitely forgot how to form words. "Shoulder?" he asked, nodding at my sling. "Rotator cuff," I managed, helping a neighbor move furniture. "I'm apparently not as strong as I think I am." He smiled, and it was warm and genuine. "I did the same thing last year training for a triathlon. Pushed too hard, too fast. The recovery's frustrating, isn't it? That feeling of being trapped in your own useless body." We talked. Actually talked, for the first time beyond pleasantries. He told me about his injury, about the physical therapy that had helped, about his therapist's recommendations. I found myself relaxing, laughing even, as he described his own struggles with basic tasks. "I couldn't wash my own hair for 2 weeks," he admitted. "I looked like a disaster. My sister finally took pity on me and came over to help." I mentioned the liniment, my failed attempts to apply it myself. And then, before I could overthink it, before I could stop myself, I heard my own voice saying, "I don't suppose you'd be willing to help me with it? I know that's weird to ask, but I'm kind of desperate here." The words hung in the air between us. I immediately wanted to take them back, to laugh it off as a joke, but Daniel just looked thoughtful. "Sure," he said. "I remember how much the right liniment helped me. When were you thinking?" My brain short-circuited. Tonight, after work? I could order pizza or something, as a thank you." 7 work for you? Text me your address." He pulled out his phone and we exchanged numbers, and suddenly I had plans with Daniel Park. Daniel Park was coming to my apartment to rub medicine on my naked back. This was either the best or worst decision I'd ever made. I spent the rest of the workday spiraling between excitement and panic. I left early, used my injury as an excuse, and rushed home to clean my apartment like I was preparing for a royal visit. Dishes washed, surfaces wiped, bathrooms scrubbed, that pile of laundry I'd been ignoring for a week shoved into the closet. I changed my sheets. I lit a candle, then blew it out because that felt too obvious. I checked my hair in the mirror about 40 times. I reminded myself this was just a friend helping a friend, nothing more. Stop being ridiculous. The knock on my door came at exactly 7. Daniel was punctual, because of course he was. He'd changed out of his work clothes into jeans and a soft-looking navy sweater. He held up a bottle of wine. "Figured you might need something to take the edge off. The liniment can be intense." My apartment suddenly felt very small with him in it. I gave him the brief tour, pointed out where everything was, probably talked too much because I was nervous. He was gracious about it, asked questions about the art prints on my walls, complimented my book collection. We ordered pizza, drank wine, and for a while I almost forgot why he was there. But then the pizza was gone and we were on our second glass of wine, and Daniel said, "So, should we do this before the medicine cabinet smell drives us both out?" My bathroom felt even smaller with both of us in it. Daniel washed his hands thoroughly while I fumbled with the liniment jar. The smell hit us both immediately, sharp and medicinal. He laughed. "Oh, wow, that's potent. Okay, you're going to need to take your shirt off and probably sit on the edge of the tub so I can reach properly." Right, of course. This was medical, practical, not weird at all. I pulled my shirt off with my good arm, trying not to wince as the movement jarred my bad shoulder. The bathroom mirror showed me what Daniel was seeing. Me, shirtless, vulnerable, the bruising on my shoulder visible in ugly purple and yellow. Not exactly the scenario I'd imagined for the first time Daniel Park saw me without a shirt. I sat on the edge of the tub. Daniel stood behind me. I could feel his presence, the warmth of him, even before he touched me. "Tell me where it hurts most," he said softly. I guided his hand to the worst spot, that knot of pain just below my shoulder blade. His fingers were careful, gentle as he applied the liniment. The initial touch burned, just like the pharmacist had warned, but then his hands started working the medicine into my skin with slow, deliberate circles, and something shifted. It wasn't just the medicine, though that was helping. It was the intimacy of it, the careful attention, the way his hands moved with confidence and care. No one had touched me like this in longer than I wanted to admit, not since my last relationship had ended badly a year ago, not since I'd decided I was better off alone, safer alone. "You're really tense," Daniel murmured. "Try to breathe. Let me work out some of these knots." His thumbs pressed into the muscles around my shoulder blade, finding trigger points I didn't know existed. I heard myself make this involuntary sound, half relief, half something else. "Sorry," I muttered. "Don't apologize. That's how I know I'm hitting the right spots." His voice was close to my ear. His hands moved lower, working down my back, even though the injury was just my shoulder. I should have said something, should have told him he could stop, but I didn't want him to stop. God, I really didn't want him to stop. "Your whole back is knotted up," he said. "Not just from the injury. You carry a lot of tension here." His palms smoothed up my spine. "Do you want me to keep going?" It was the way he asked, the slight shift in his tone, that made me realize this had become something more than medical assistance. This was a question with weight behind it. I could say no, could thank him and end this here, could preserve whatever professional distance we'd maintained, or I could be honest. "Yes," I whispered. "Please." His hands moved with more purpose then, working the liniment into my entire back, my shoulders, down to my lower back, the burn of the medicine mixed with the heat of his touch. I was hyper-aware of every point of contact, every place his skin met mine. My breathing had gone shallow. I was definitely not thinking about this as medical anymore. "Better?" he asked, but he didn't stop touching me. "Much better." My voice came out rougher than I intended. "Thank you." "You know," Daniel said, his hands stilling on my shoulders, "I've been trying to figure out how to talk to you for months. Every time I'd see you in the elevator or the cafeteria, I'd plan what to say, and then I'd chicken out. When you asked me for help today, I couldn't believe my luck." I turned my head, trying to see him. "What?" His hands slid down my arms, casual but deliberate. "You really didn't know? I thought I was being obvious, the bagel thing. I didn't even want that bagel. I was hoping it would be an excuse to talk to you. My heart was doing something complicated in my chest. I thought you were just being nice. I was being interested." His hand came up to my good shoulder, turning me slightly so I could see him better. His eyes behind those perfect glasses were dark and intent. "I am interested. Very interested. If you are." This was the moment. The precipice. I could play it safe, could laugh it off, could pretend I didn't feel what I was feeling, or I could jump. I jumped. "I've had a crush on you since the first time I saw you," I admitted. "You were presenting in a meeting about website redesign, and you got so passionate about user interface that you forgot to be polished and professional, and I thought it was the most attractive thing I'd ever seen." Daniel laughed, surprised and delighted. "That presentation was a disaster. I rambled for 20 minutes about font choices. It was adorable." I was fully turned toward him now, our knees almost touching. The liniment smell was still overwhelming, but I didn't care. "This is really happening?" "If you want it to." His hand was still on my shoulder, his thumb tracing small circles on my collarbone. "I should probably tell you I didn't just happen to be in the break room at lunch. Marcus texted me that you were hurt and needed help. I volunteered before he could finish the message." "Marcus texted you?" My brain was having trouble keeping up. "Marcus has been trying to set us up for months. He's very invested in your happiness, apparently. Also," he said, and I quote, "You two are being ridiculous and someone needs to do something about it." Daniel's smile was sheepish. "So I did something about it." I started laughing, which made my shoulder hurt, which made me wince, which made Daniel immediately concerned. Sorry, I shouldn't make you laugh. Is your shoulder okay?" "My shoulder is the least of my concerns right now." I reached up with my good hand, touching his face, his jaw, checking if this was real. His skin was warm under my palm. He leaned into the touch. "What are your concerns?" he asked softly. "That I'm going to wake up and this will have been a pain medication fever dream, that I'm misreading this entire situation, that you're going to leave and I'll have to see you at work and pretend this didn't happen." The words tumbled out, honest and raw. Daniel's hand covered mine on his face. "I'm not going anywhere unless you want me to. And I really, really hope you don't want me to." I kissed him. Or he kissed me. It didn't matter who moved first. What mattered was his lips on mine, soft and sure, his hand sliding into my hair, careful of my injury, the taste of wine and something uniquely him. The kiss was gentle at first, tentative, and then it deepened, became more urgent. I made a sound against his mouth and his arm came around my waist, pulling me closer. We broke apart, both breathing hard. "We smell like a pharmacy," I said, and he laughed against my neck. "I don't care." His lips found the spot just below my ear. "I've wanted to do this for so long." "My shoulder," I managed, because his mouth on my neck was making it very hard to think. "I should probably not do anything too athletic right now." He pulled back, eyes dancing with amusement and heat. "Then let's go somewhere more comfortable than your bathroom, and I'll be very, very careful with you." We moved to my bedroom, and he was careful, so careful. We lay on my bed and kissed until my lips were swollen and I was dizzy with wanting. His hands explored my chest, my stomach, always mindful of my injured shoulder. I fumbled with the hem of his sweater and he helped me pull it off, and then it was skin on skin, his body warm and solid against mine. "Tell me if anything hurts," he murmured against my collarbone. "Tell me what feels good." Everything felt good. His weight, his warmth, the way he touched me like I was something precious. We took our time, learning each other, mapping territory that felt both new and somehow familiar. There was fumbling and laughter and moments of breathless intensity. There was the awkward reality of working around an injury, of finding positions that didn't hurt, of having to stop and readjust. But there was also tenderness, the way he kissed my bruised shoulder so gently, the way I traced the lines of his body like I was memorizing scripture, the way we fit together, eventually, perfectly, moving in a rhythm that felt inevitable. Afterwards, we lay tangled together, my good arm around him, his head on my chest. The liniment smell had faded, replaced by sweat and satisfaction. My shoulder ached, but I didn't care. "Stay," I said. "Tonight. Please stay." "I was hoping you'd ask." He pressed a kiss to my chest, right over my heart. "I cleared my morning, just in case." "Presumptuous," I teased. "Optimistic," he corrected. "There's a difference." We talked into the night, about everything and nothing, about how we'd both been too scared to make a move, too worried about workplace complications, too convinced the other person couldn't possibly be interested, about the months of stolen glances and imagined scenarios, about Marcus, who apparently had been running an elaborate campaign to throw us together. "He's going to be insufferable when he finds out," I said. "He's going to be thrilled. He's already planning to take credit." Daniel's fingers traced patterns on my stomach. Worth it, though. Definitely worth it. I woke up the next morning to sunlight streaming through my window and Daniel's arm around my waist. For a moment I thought I had dreamed it. But no, he was really there. Sleep soft and beautiful, his hair a mess, his glasses on my nightstand. My shoulder hurt less than it had in days. He stirred, opened his eyes, smiled at me with such warmth that my chest felt tight. "Morning." "Morning?" I kissed him because I could, because he was here, because this was real. We made coffee and burned toast and laughed at how domestic we already were. He borrowed one of my shirts for work, and seeing him in my clothes did something to me. We drove separately to the office, but met in the parking garage, stealing one more kiss before we had to be professional. Marcus knew immediately. He took one look at us during the morning meeting and actually fist-pumped. "Finally," he announced to the entire room, "do you know how long I've been working on this?" Daniel and I couldn't even be embarrassed. We were too happy, grinning at each other across the conference table like idiots. That was 6 months ago. My shoulder healed, though I still keep that jar of liniment in my bathroom cabinet. Sometimes Daniel will see it and get this look, and I know we're both remembering that first night. We're careful at work, professional, but everyone knows anyway. We don't hide it. He stays over most nights now, or I stay at his place. We've met each other's families. We've had our first fight and our first makeup. We've started talking about getting a place together, something bigger, something that's ours. Last week, I helped Mrs. Chen move another piece of furniture. Daniel came with me this time, and together we got her old bookshelf down the stairs without incident. She looked between us, smiled knowingly, and said something in Mandarin that made Daniel laugh. "What did she say?" I asked as we walked back to my apartment. She said she knew that Dresser would be good for something. She said sometimes the universe has to push us down the stairs before we figure out what we really need. I thought about that, about injuries in liniment and courage, about asking for help and receiving so much more than you expected, about how sometimes the worst moments lead to the best things. Remind me to thank that dresser, I said, and Daniel kissed me right there on the sidewalk, and I thought, yeah, this is exactly where I'm supposed to be.